primal hush. This one is dedicated to the ghosts, to the ruler of the restless sand. With unoccupied mind, we listen. Youth slowly slipping from our bodies.
Fever is designed as an immersive experience with different activations throughout the different levels of the exhibition space. And you enter the space through a red foil that is applied on the window, which already sets the division between the interior and the exterior environment. Once you enter, you find yourself in this space that offers inward reflection on the topic of desertness or extreme conditions. In this case, I was referring to the fever, to the rise of temperature, on the example of the planetary crisis, but still referring to inner movement. So my big question that I want to hand to the visitor is where do we find heat within our system? Where do we find desertness, vastness in our system? The installation as it's set up should providing prompts to confront the visitor with these questions, but also opening up the space for the reflection. It was very challenging for me because there was this really huge fascination for the environment, for the desert, for this expanded nothingness from a Eurocentric perspective. Going to an environment that is so unfamiliar to the environment that I grew up made me understand that this is a very, very challenging thing for a European or for a Westerner because it's not my story. But at the same time, it was moving me so much, so deeply. I understood that the only way how I can access that environment and talk about my experience is to create a fiction. The exhibition here is set up kind of apocalyptic game in a way that has the avatars, the game players that are walking through the space. What happens when you sit in the desert and it's this huge vastness and the silence? You are so thrown back to this impermanence that you embody. And at the same time, this expanded space has a completely different timeline. A part of my research was also how do humans create healing and well-being techniques to balance this extreme condition of the heat. I was happy to explore also some of these parts and translate it to an experience that can be activated here through the oracle upstairs, where I was also using some of the treatment elements that I experienced during my time in the desert. Looking into very traditional techniques, what kind of frequencies are used, what kind of herbs are used, but also what does the internet provide on healing or relaxation techniques. That's why in the sound we find the ASMR elements. But at the same time, the downstairs soundscape is a direct reference to the singing dunes. It's falling apart or rising to a really high-pitched tone. You experience as an auditive sensation when the fever rises in your body and you are in between hallucination and grasping still the reality. There is a very subtle level to the sound. For the sound design, I worked with my sound designer, musician 𝗏𝗏𝗏. She was accompanying me in the desert and we did some field recordings to find the source of these tones and translate it into a contemporary soundscape that is still referring the natural but not taking it too literal. In the upstairs whispering ASMR sound, it's a text that I wrote during my stay in desert. You cannot really locate where it comes from, but it's still using this very crisp, very close-up, high-resolution sound that makes it feel almost like it's next to your ear. And it refers to a current trend online that uses like these ASMR qualities for relaxation, for deep relaxation.
Youth slowly slipping from our bodies. Inhale. We heat up.
It's a material that I work with since many years, but in that exhibition it became a completely new, interesting quality that is implemented in the material itself. First of all, it's a natural material, same as the glass, but it has like the quality to balance the climate. The technique itself, it's a dye on silk. That's a technique that I use always when I work with silk. It has like a certain elegance to it. It's balanced kind of like the roughness of the heat, because like if you touch it, it's always like very cool. It's very cold. It's almost like a second skin. And the sujets that are shown in the works, which are like different formations of ghosts or snakes or mythological figures that are like constantly trying to fit in a frame, to become the shape that you want to see, but at this next moment they are vanishing, they are blurring, like the dunes. It's a mixture of glass and 3D print, so the glass has this immediate connection to the sand. At the same time, which I found like really beautiful as a metaphor, is that the glass can be shaped through extreme heat. It was like mouth blown in the shape of a snake teeth filled with the snake's venom. And the head on the backside of the object is 3D printed, which is like the contemporary component in one object. This is the merger of these two worlds, like the traditional handcraft and then the digital production. Same time, it's a reference to gaming culture. It creates this mythological weapon that is ready to battle in this apocalyptic game of battling your fever, battling the rise of temperature within you. The opening was accompanied by the activation, and in the lower floor you had the chance to meet like your avatar, your player, like your warrior that was equipped with two of the weapons. In the upstairs altar installation for the opening, there was an oracle reading. I designed an oracle card deck consisting of 33 oracle cards. They are on one hand depicting different characters that appear to you, like the gatekeeper, the desert, the ring, the lovers. Some of them refer to original tarot card figures, but some of them are part of the whole narrative that I'm telling in Fever. The text that applies on the cards is designed in a dialogue with ChatGPT, which for me was an important playful element in designing the narrative of the show. The costumes that they wear, it's obviously like a reference to the climate fashion, but it also talks about like the fashionable aspect of the crisis and the dilemma. The performers wear the Balenciaga shoes, so you have cross-cultural appearance with this kimono, that the way the fabric is moving through the space is what currently trying to be achieved in 3D animation realm, right? So it's like this imitating wind and fight and battle, but at the same time wisdom, So that's why the kimono upstairs, which is a down version of a kimono, applying extreme condition for the performer. So she's sitting there, providing the wisdom, but at the same time sweating in this coat. It's like a side hint to it's still looking good even though the end is near. Everyone is like still trying to perform their best, whereas everything around us is collapsing. I don't want to bias too much the viewer, because it's about inward reflection and to find your own truth and your own answers within you. I just provide with this very strong symbol of the 𝗗𝗗𝗧𝗘, which is the snake that bites its own tail. In that case, it's the venom gland that the snake or this hybrid figure has swallowed, which is very strong metaphor of the situation that we are currently facing in the world. It's like the big question also in the audio, are we the venom or are we the snake? And while digesting our own venom, we eventually have to face our own ending. It's also not about finding solutions, because I think we are currently in a situation where it's not easy to find a solution for our dilemma. So probably the only thing we can do is sit with it instead of having like proper answers. I doubt that I'm skilled to find the answer, because I'm also just like a little tiny microscopic piece of the puzzle. For me, these exhibitions and installations are fetching the current zeitgeist and fetching what I discover. What I do find interesting in my work is to build connections between technology and nature, to understand techniques, like to understand rhythms, to understand, like to listen to the nature, to listen to the planet, to listen to our environment, and prepare it in a way for the visitors to experience. And if they leave after the exhibition with a little planted question, like a seed in their mind that might like grow into some like more developed thought in the future, that's what I can do, and that is very beautiful.